I love the guy, um, and wrote to him while I was in prison, sent him my books, and and wrote a nice dedication letter to him and saying, hey, you may not agree with everything that I've written in these books, but I just want you to know you played a huge part in my life, in my view of the scriptures. And in a way, it's his fault that I'm looking into this flat earth thing and taking the biblical position that I have, because he's so fond of saying, and if you look at any of his teachings online, I take the Bible literally. Okay, dude, what do you do with all the scriptures that says the earth's on pillars? The sun, moon, and stars are placed in the firmament. Circle and ball are two different words. I mean, I could go down a whole. In fact, I'll go ahead and just do a quick screen share here for your viewers of the website testingtheglobe.com. This is the website I created, and if you go to the main menu, it says One Man's Quest for Truth. Of course, that's me in this case. The Bible and the Still Flat Earth. That particular page, and it's pretty long, so you could just watch the video if you don't want to actually read it. I do a whole thing on truth versus credibility. And then in part 4 right here, I do this thing called allowing the Bible to speak for itself. And this is where I just say, look, in this paragraph right here in the top, 2 paragraphs, I basically just say, hey, we've all been taught a certain way of believing. The reality of our cosmos is a certain way. Put all that aside. Do your best to put any preconceived bias that you have, put it aside, and just let the scriptures speak for themselves. And then I shut up. Right? Then I said, scriptures concerning the nature of the heavens, sky above, and their relationship with the earth. And these are just scriptures. And no, I'm not saying anything. It's just the Bible. Then I put scriptures concerning the nature of the earth below the firmament. All the scriptures that I could find. And I don't claim that this to be an exhaustive list. This is just what I was able to find. And then scriptures concerning the nature of the sun, moon, and stars. And if you just read those, just read them and put all your preconceived notions aside, I'm sorry, there is no way you're going to get a spinning heliocentric globe out of that. You're just not. And so and then after that, I did my explanation. I went through those same scriptures and then broke down the Hebrews and words and various depictions that people have had, and this is basically what the Bible shows us. And even Logos Bible software, this is what really got me. A lot of biblical scholars out there will recognize Logos Bible software as one of the premier software packages out there. In fact, it's rather expensive. But I mean, this has some of the what many consider to be some of the best scholarship out there when it comes to understanding the Bible and whatnot. And this is what they say. This is what the Hebrew conception of the universe was. It's a snow globe. Taking the Bible for what it says, even Logos Bible software acknowledges it. Here's an Egyptian conception of it with the sky goddess Nut as the dome, basically. So, I go through Chug and the difference of that, and when they talk about the circle of the earth, you need to realize that that circle was inscribed. It says, and Solomon said in Proverbs 8:27, he established the heavens, I was there when he inscribed a circle. So Isaiah talks about a circle, and Solomon says that circle was inscribed. And Solomon wrote before Isaiah, so Isaiah would have written in the context of whatever Solomon understood. And when you look up the Hebrew word for inscribed, it means like to carve into stone, like carving the 10 Commandments. Okay, well, I mean, how do you carve a ball into something? They're carving a circle. And, I just keep going through it. And, this is one artist's conception back in the 1800s of, 4 corners of the earth with a circle inscribed in it. I came up with a different idea. This was an early rendering that I did. I called it Yahuwah's terrarium, where you basically got a circle inscribed into a square, with the dome over it. And I just go, looking through the scriptures, does this fit what you're reading, or does this fit? And if I'm being honest with myself, the scriptures fit this a lot better than it fits this. So, I just keep going through it, and then make the case for geocentricity and things like that. And so with somebody like Kent, he by his own words, he admits that he's very stubborn. He's very set in his ways. When he thinks he's right, he knows he's right. And he says, my humble and completely unbiased opinion, he jokes about it, but, he makes it quite clear that he believes what he believes, and you're not likely going to change his mind. However, the time that he spent in prison, he did change his view on the pre-trib rapture. which for a typical fundamental Baptist dispensationalist type of person, King James only, is pretty extraordinary. At least based on my experiences, growing up. That's like the view, and so when he came off of the pre-trib rapture page, that shows the guy is pliable, he's open, but with all of the teaching that he has done on the spinning heliocentric globe, that one may be a lot harder for him to let go of. And if brother, I love you. If you're out there, if you happen to hear this and you're listening, I'm just going to say, man, please put your preconceived notions aside, because you spent your whole career showing how the textbooks are fraudulent, demolishing the timeline established by Charles Lyell. A dude looks at a bunch of stripes on rock and says, hey, I think that represents millions of years. No proof, no evidence, nothing. Says that represents millions of years. You, Mr. Hovind, proved that he was wrong, that guy had no basis in reality, no truth. But he set out to try to destroy the biblical timeline of 6 days, which you, Brother Hovind, have been so instrumental in teaching me and countless others to trust the biblical narrative that the earth was created in 6 days. Lyell tried to get us to throw all that timeline out. Darwin here's what Lyell did. It says, hey, I think that's cool because I think we came from monkeys. Maybe it took millions of years. They shake hands. That's awesome. Huxley gets alongside them, becomes their bulldog. And, next thing you know, modern science is all about is monkey man science over millions of years. But you, Mr. Hovind, showed us that we are created in the image and likeness of God, not monkeys. So why would you then, after you've just demolished the public textbooks that teach us the idea of millions of years in evolution, say that you have seen the pictures in the textbook? The same textbook that you spent your entire ministry refuting. I'm just going to challenge you, brother. Look into those images. I know you believe men actually landed on the moon in 1969 through 72. I'm going to challenge you on that. That didn't happen. The Orion project alone is telling you that did not happen. The space shuttle program came to an end, and after the space shuttle ended, the new project is Project Orion. Just do a YouTube search on Project Orion and radiation, and you'll see all the videos that they are putting out saying, if this is their words, we've got to solve this problem before we could send men through their Van Allen radiation belt. And you're like, wait a minute. I thought you solved the problem, 40 years ago when you sent a bunch of guys in jumpsuits and tin cans through that thing allegedly 12 times, there and back, through 6 trips to the moon. So they're telling us today in the 21st century that they still haven't solved the radiation problem for Project Orion, which effectively nullifies everything we were told about Project Apollo. And the more you look into Project Apollo, the more you eventually have to say something is extremely suspicious about it. And fool me once, right? You've heard the thing, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Well, continue to believe pathological liars and you're an idiot. If these guys are lying and we can prove that they are lying, then why should we trust them as our source for truth over and above the scriptures that you, Brother Hovind, taught us that we can take literally? So I'm just going to say, hey, I put the scriptures out there. I know you know them just as well as I do, probably even better. But if you go back there and read those scriptures, you are going to be forced to acknowledge, just as the scholars from Logos Bible Software, that we are on a inscribed circular, still flat earth set on pillars with edges and corners under a dome within which the sun, moon, and stars were placed on day 4. I'm sorry, Brother Hovind, but I used to teach the same thing that you taught, largely because you taught it, and I believed you. You cannot put the sun, moon, and stars in the ice canopy. Genesis says the sun, moon, and stars were placed in the firmament, the canopy. That's the dome. We're under a dome. So I love the guy. I don't know what it would take. Somebody like me is probably never going to convince him. He's probably just going to write me off as a conspiracy tinfoil hat wearing nut job, like many others have. The thing that convinced me that that's what the text says was just reading it and not putting my preconceived notions on it that I got from monkey man science textbooks that Brother Hovind told me that I shouldn't believe in the first place. So, that's a long answer, but that would be basically what I would say in that regard.